There it goes. Okay, internet, let's see. All right, so there's sound. All right, so that's going live. I'm just going to grab that link, throw it onto Facebook. Just move this over. Meeting is live now. If you'd like to watch and chat or participate, Zoom link is in the events posting. Okay, so that's that. Where did my slide go? Okay. What time is it? It is, of course, now I can't see my computer's clock. 5:33. I suppose 3 minutes over is a good Minnesota nicety. So I know Nicole and Mandy won't be joining us today. Let me just do a quick look at the participant list. Oh, I see Diego's in. Hello, everybody. I'm V. Paul with communications with the group. I just want to see if Alicia's in. Not yet. Okay. And I tend to sometimes forget about the chat box, so I am totally willing to let people shout stuff out or say, Paul, look at the chat.
Noted.
Okay, so welcome to February, March. I'm calling it February still because this meeting was supposed to be last week, and I'm assuming we're still going to have a March meeting in 4 weeks. So this is really the February meeting in March. Welcome to 2021. We just a quick treasure update from Jason, and it certainly doesn't have to be too detailed, but we do have some teacher requests, and it looks like from the email, Jason, that the two that we as a group, as leadership, voted on over email have already been purchased and bought. So I guess we don't have to pass that through a vote anymore. Yep. But there is a pending teacher request regarding the Balkan Museum. And then if you wouldn't mind just letting us know how we look financially, did you want to just bring that up and then we could put it to a vote?
Yep. Yeah, sure. So there hasn't been much spent since last meeting. I think it was the total accounts were decremented by about maybe $1,800 for mostly around masks, as well as gift cards for the teachers for Sister Sledge Coffee. Ms. Kennard we got the thank you card that you gave, and I took a picture of it and sent it to the rest of PTO today. So thanks for that note. That was really sweet.
Yep, here it is. Here's the card. Great timing. I was looking for it. And you brought it up. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. So we are still sitting at just over $78,000 across the two accounts. There is, we did receive a check today. Well, not today. I received it today, I guess, because we cleared out the mailbox. But box tops for education was $32.30, which is a big increase over the last one, which was only $11. So awesome to see people are using that application and directing funds to Bancroft. Additionally, we got a check from the Custom Ink for $287, but it doesn't list a reason why they sent us a check. Does anybody know what that might be for?
So they're sending us money back?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
$287.
So I'm going to just ask Nicole about 287 from Custom Ink. All right. Just make that note because I know I'm not going to remember.
I can ask her too. So yeah, so that's where we're sitting. There's still projected expenses of about well, with the book reading that we got, sorry, it's about $6,500 yet for headsets, and then the book reading, the remaining balance of that request. I don't know if we'll need more postage because it sounded like last time that wasn't being used very much. But if that came up as well, we'd still be sitting at about $70,000 or just over $70,000.
Sure. So then these items from the two previously requested teacher requests that went over email chain,
Yep.
which have been ordered and are paid for, these are well under.
Yep.
So we're in a good place, right?
Yep.
Great. So I'm just putting this out there for folks. These are a couple of teacher requests. And then this is the new one, which I actually didn't pay too much attention to in terms of detail. But I don't think we have a problem supporting it. Does anyone want to speak to this? Does anyone know about this one?
It's a live virtual field trip for the fourth graders with back-in. Each class will have the opportunity to work with 2 educators from the back-in on the topic of energy.
I can speak to those.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Please.
And that's okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Francis. I'm the IB coordinator. And the book club books were my request on behalf of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, which was a earlier, I know, approved expense through the group. And I thank you so much, because putting real books in the hands of kids right now, instead of reading them electronically, they absolutely love it. So it's always exciting to get a new book. And then the second one is I'm actually requesting this funding from the Masonic Lodge donation that we receive every year for our field trips. The 4th grade is going to experience a live, both distance and in-person classrooms will be having a session with 2 educators from the Bakken around energy, which is the concept they're studying right now in their unit of inquiry. So instead of having it recorded, they're going to have a live where it's going to be interactive later this week. So we're real excited for that. I'm hoping we can use funding from that line item for that.
I can actually speak to that too, just because through my company, we actually fund these projects with the Bakken. And they've done a really, really amazing job of pivoting to figure out ways to get experiences that kids would have by going to the Bakken and bringing them online. And they've really done a phenomenal job.
I'm super excited to hear that. Thank you.
I apologize, Sue. I didn't know you were on the call.
Oh, no worries. No worries. No, not at all. Yeah.
I did drop your check off, or Mandy dropped your check off today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So, cool. Does any other comments regarding this? I think this is a pretty much a yes, unless anyone wants to bring up anything. But we're in a good place, and there's funding for it, and this sounds like a great idea. And it's gotten some third party through Kimberly acknowledgement.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cool. Great. And so just in terms of, because we're over Zoom and we don't really have voting, I mean, it's just pretty much, it's out there, it's a vote. Everyone just says yes.
Yes. Nicole also voiced her support separately.
Yep.
So, you know.
All right, great. I'll take that as a yes. Already knows and no one's in chat. So that's great. The motion moves. And then yes, Linda, why don't we do that? Thank you. I am not a very good party host. So let's use this moment as a round robin introduce. So we know everyone that's here. I just pretty much went into business. And yes, in that chat, we certainly can use emoticons. We can make that work as well. But let's, I'm V. Paul. I have a first grader in Miss Tiffany's class, and I'm communications. And then Jason, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say Jason is our treasurer. And you wanna say just a little bit what class you got on, and I'll just call out names after you, Jason.
Yep. We have a third grader, Sven, and a first grader, Edie. Sven was in Miss Kennard's class, and Edie is in Miss Lewis's class. And I forgot his new teacher's name, but he's in the distance learning class now for third grade.
Great, thank you. Amy C.
Hello, I'm Amy Courtwright. Your kids would know me as Miss Amy. I'm ESL teacher for first and second grade, and I am attending your meeting today to answer any questions you might have about the Wing Young Huey residency as you put it up for a vote on funding.
Great, thank you. Christine, I'm just going down the list. Christine Kennard.
Hi, I'm Christine Kennard, and I teach third grade, and I'm here because you asked me to come. I don't know that I have a lot to add, but I'm here.
Great, thank you. No, I think it's great to have the teacher in the Parent Teacher Association represented on the group. So all teachers are welcome all the time. Thank you. Davin Lagueros.
David, thank you.
David.
I am the father of a kindergartner, was in Ms. Marquardt's class, now in Ms. Kira's class.
Great. And then we've got Mr. DePaz, Diego.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Diego DePaz, and I'm the principal at Bancroft. So welcome, everybody, tonight.
Thank you. And then Emily Terrell.
Hi, I'm Emily Terrell. I have a kindergartner booker in Miss Marquardt's class.
Great. And then Jason Went, Kimberly Sinclair.
Hi, I'm Kimberly. I'm here with Justin. He's hiding. We are parents to Henry, second grader in Miss Schoberg's distance learning class.
Great, thank you. Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I have a kindergartner who was in Marquardt's class and now in Miss Kira.
Great, thank you. It looks like an email address, Lihar002.
Yes, that would be me, Lisa.
Oh,
Hartman.
okay.
That's okay. Differentiation specialist and also math specialist. And I know a lot of you, so hi, welcome tonight. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Linda.
I'm Linda, the family liaison. Good to see everybody here.
And then thank you. And then Renee Schmidkamp.
Yep, my name is Renee. I have 3 kids at Bancroft, a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and a 1st grader.
Great, thank you for coming. Rosa Costain.
Hi, my name is Rosa. I have a 2nd grader in Miss Schoberg's class right now.
Great, thank you. Rose.
Hi, I'm Rose. I have a kindergartner at Bancroft in Miss Kira's class.
Great, thank you. Sue Francis, Miss Sue.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Francis. I'm the IB coordinator.
Tana.
Hi, I'm Tana. I have a 1st grader in Mr. Coffey's class.
Great, thank you. And Miss Tiffany, I know you.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Renando. I teach 1st grade. I've got Silas in my class. Pretty great. So I'm here to talk about the teacher part of things too.
Great, thank you. Yes, teachers in the group are great. And so then, having gone through that, thank you for that, that little detour. And then the Wing Young Huey thing was also, or is also an agenda item. It's happening, right? I mean, the only reason why I say so is because I listened into my son's morning class and they announced it. We approved it. We're good to go there. Is there anything more that we need to do, PTO? Does anyone want to talk to that? Speak to what it is. Who said they were here?
I can speak to what it is. So I understand that the PTO has been having a lot of conversations this year about equity and outreach and finding ways to center the voices of the whole range of Bancroft community members and families. And you're not alone in that. The equity team has also been having similar discussions, and also the SEL, the positive school-wide engagement team, has been having similar conversations. So I've been doing my best to try and connect those different pieces of conversation and think about ways that we can make a project happen that will make those efforts visible and cultivate that community outreach that we're looking for. And something that came to mind was the local artist Wing Young Huey, who is a photographer who has done the amazing public art photography exhibits that have occurred on Lake Street and also on University in St. Paul in years past. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with him. His gallery is at 38th in Chicago, and it's called the Third Place. So we reached out to him a few weeks ago just to see what he might suggest to us in guiding a project along the lines of some of the work that he's done to connect with community members. And he ended up offering his time to us. So we're very excited. Teachers are stretching themselves to make this work at a really busy transitional time. And we're really excited to have him come work with us. He will be working virtually. So distance learning classes and in-person classes will be meeting with him for 2 sessions to learn about what he does with photography to connect with people and learn about some projects that teachers will then implement with students in the classroom time using photography. And then we also hope to extend that into a family project and perhaps include photographs that come out of that in a family gallery.
Great, thank you. So I see it in the request form here. And I know it was announced in classes, at least in my son's class this morning. So it's rolling. What do I guess the question is, what do we have to pay for at this point? I mean, where are we in the process of making sure we don't forget to cut a check?
Yeah, the $1,200 quoted there in the request is a calculation based on typical rates for renowned artists doing residencies at $75 an hour. So Wing Huey has spent about 3 hours on the phone with Kira, Miss Kira, and I to discuss the idea of this project and the logistics of it. And then he will spend 2 days with Bancroft students, and we've booked him back to back solid through the 2 days. And so that is how we came up with that number.
Sure, right. No, it sounds good.
And it is indeed rolling. Very short notice, very short turnaround. Typically, artist residencies take a lot more collaboration beforehand and discussion with the funding sources and so forth. But we're in unusual times here, so I appreciate you fielding this request so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be honest, that certainly is why I'm stumbling over it, because I'm just not sure in terms of process wise. But so for the rest of PTO, and I guess one follow-up question, you mentioned that there may be some follow-up activities after the actual residency. You were talking about incorporating some family photos, and there's might be an exhibition or gallery of sorts. Does it 1,200? So there would be an additional need above the 1,200 for the bits and pieces that are not yet set in stone?
At this time, we have no plans to work directly with Wing after these 2 days. The second session of his residency on Thursday will introduce a particular type of project that he calls Chalk Talk. And he will also kind of extend the idea of using photography with the Chalk Talk into some work that he's done where students are taking photos of their families to share something about their families. And what we are envisioning, this has been in discussion with the Positive School-wide Engagement team, is to use that experience that students have with him through the classroom residency as a platform for creating a project of family photos. And James Menke has been working on an electronic platform that it's sort of a gallery where you can hover over a particular thing and it pops up, so that families can choose to share photos about themselves or their family culture in that format. We'd also like to display photos in the windows of the school. We're still working on all the permissions that would be involved to share images of families in this way. Normally, our permissions apply to displaying photos within the school building. But this is a special circumstance with the virtual or the internet format, or even displaying them in the windows of the school. So Wing Huey would not be spending more of his time with us to realize the second project unless it evolves into that. Currently, we're envisioning outreach with Bancroft staff to realize a second project with families.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for those details. So I think Jason just stepped right away, but I'm guessing there hasn't been a check cut yet, or that process hasn't actually happened. So let me just, for the sake of the formality of it, are there any other questions to Miss
see
Amy
one in
about
the-
this?
I see Kimberly had a question. This is for all of the students whose teachers signed up for a slot. So that has included both in-person and distance learning classes. And we have also requested to record the sessions so that classrooms who had a conflict and weren't able to participate this week with the virtual live sessions can have the opportunity to do the projects by using the recorded sessions. So hopefully everyone will get a chance. But currently those who have signed up include both in-person and distance learning.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right, hearing and seeing none, I'm going to just put a vote out. If you want to throw in chat, 1 approves the project and the expenditure with the idea that of what Jason has reported to us in terms of our financial standing. 2 is a no vote. So 1 is a yes, 2 is a no. You can go ahead and chat, please. All right, great. Thank you. So, yep, we're in a good place. Thank you for bringing that forward. That's great. Absolutely great.
Thank you so much for your receptivity and support of it. I appreciate that.
Cool. Let me switch back to my other screen. Okay, so I don't, as far as I know, at this point, we've covered all of pending and recent expenditures, and we've done financial, so I'm going to move on from there. Mr. DePaz, Diego, I've put you up a little bit higher up so that you don't have to rush through. But I also figure that any updates you might have would be good as we move into the next topic, which would be having the teachers who are attending tonight just chat with us a little bit. So Diego, do you have any updates for us?
I have plenty of updates. I know somebody mentioned it a little bit earlier that there's been a lot of transition happening. And so, I can talk a lot about the switch to in-person learning that a number of our students made, the switches that a lot of our DL kids had to make with teachers and the changes that we've made with the scheduling. So yeah, there's lots of updates. And so I just want to start by saying that on, February 8th, we welcomed students back into our building after 11 months. We had our kindergartners and high five students the first 2 days, which was absolutely amazing. And I will try and get any influence I have on the district to have our kindergartners be the first kids back in the school building, because they were not overwhelmed or starstruck by the big kids. They were just able to have all hands on deck, and the attention just paid solely to them. So that was a fun thing to welcome those kiddos back on the 8th. And then on the 10th, we welcomed back our first and second graders and had those kids K through 2, for the first 2 weeks. And then this past week, we had our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders join us. And so overall, we have about 55% of our kids chose in-person learning, which is about 285 kids. And then we have about 45% that remained in distance learning. And so that's about 230 to 235 kids. And we have lots of kids, not lots of kids. We've had some movement back and forth also. Some kids switching back from DL to in-person and from in-person to DL. The last 2 weeks, we've seen 21 kids switch learning modes. 16 of those are going to be coming in person, and 5 of them switch back to DL. And so we are watching closely the classroom sizes for the in-person classes, just to make sure we're able to maintain the 3 feet of spacing within the classrooms and accommodate lunch and recess in those pieces. So we do have, I talked a little bit about switching learning modes. So if you do have a family if you're a family that wants to switch learning modes, please make sure that you reach out to the main office. It's great if you let your kid's teacher know also, but please reach out to the main office, because we've developed a process to track which kids are asking or which families are asking for that switch. The teachers have been made aware of that too the last few days through our news and notes and communication with them. But if you do want to request a change, whether you're going from in-person to DL or DL to in-person, please reach out to the main office. Normally, switching from in-person to DL goes a lot quicker. We do say it'll take a couple days just because we do have to re-enroll students in our discovery system, which then has to sync with Clever. So then students' information will be updated on teacher Seesaw pages, Lexia, Dreambox, all of the online platforms that we're using. So it takes a couple days for that to sync up so then kiddos can access all the materials that they need for distance learning. If you're switching from distance learning to in-person, it does take a little bit longer time. We are making all switches start on Mondays. And so if you do not need transportation and you call us today and say, hey, I want to switch my kid, it's most likely that you'll start the following Monday. So if you called me today and I put your information in, you would most likely start March 8th in-person learning. If you do need transportation, Miss Maria has to know that, has to set up bus stops, has to submit a request for a stop to be set up. If there already is one, great. If there's not, then it takes a little bit longer. So it usually takes about 2 weeks, and so we're saying the second Monday. So if you called me today, wanted to switch to in-person, you need transportation, you'll most likely then start March 15th in person. And so that's where we're at right now with that piece. Like I said, we've had more kids switch to in-person out of the 21, 16 came in, and we are watching closely, like I said, the class sizes. What I shared at Coffee Tea and IB on Friday is that there's technically not a cap to class sizes, but we are wanting to keep them within the, I guess, prescribed or preferred teacher to student ratio for the younger grades, primary grades, it's 1 to 24. And then for the older grades, it's 1 to 26. And so we are trying to obviously stay below those numbers because it just with the spacing and the furniture and trying to keep kids safe and teachers safe, we're trying to stay below that. And so that begs the other question too, that we're still trying to grapple with is, what happens if we have a grade level that gets to that cap or over that cap? Are we recalling teachers? Are we creating another in-person classroom? What will that look like? And so I do have a principal meeting on Wednesday. That's not tomorrow, but on Wednesday. And that's one of the questions I'm bringing forward because, I don't know if it's happened in other schools yet, but I do anticipate just with the warmer weather, knock on wood, not having any COVID cases or pieces happen in our school, that maybe families are going to be, reaching out more once the weather warms up and it seems relatively safe to be sending kids in person. So that's something I anticipate working through and working with the teachers as well to figure out a best laid plan if we need to add more in-person classrooms. Another huge thing that's been taking up a lot of my time and a lot of our time during meetings this past 2 weeks has been our budget. And so we did receive our budgets on the 16th of February, late that night. And with all of the CDD changes, attendance zone changes, Bancroft is facing an allocation difference of $1.9 million. So that is a significant chunk of money. Just to put that in perspective, for this current school year, our budget that I had to work with was 6.2 million. And then my next year's school budget is 4.3 million. And unfortunately, in a school setting, much of the revenue and much of the budget goes to positions and staffing. And so we've talked a lot about this as a staff, and unfortunately, there will be some accessing of positions and cutting of positions. Our projected enrollment is at about 385 students. That's down about 130. We're currently at 520 kids. So that is the projection that we're working with. The other piece that's been a significant reduction is our free and reduced projection. Currently, we're sitting at 72% free and reduced lunch, and with that comes a lot of additional dollars through compensatory ed. And our projection is down around the low 40% for next year. And so just within the compensatory ed fund, which is what I tell the teachers, my most flexible pot of money. I can basically buy anything with that pot of money. I'm losing over $800,000 just in that pot. And so that's a number of licensed staff that are outside of the classroom providing support. That's a number of ESPs or AEs that provide support. So we'll be losing a significant amount of dollars just from that pot of money. And the other piece that I shared this also at Coffee, Tea, and IB on Friday, is that our Ell population, the projection is that we're going to be down about 100 students from where we are now. And so we're going from 4 teachers down to 1.5 teachers in our ELL department, which is also another cut from the previous year, because we used to have 1 per grade level. And so we've gone in the last 2 years from 6 down to 1.5, which has been a significant change, and a significant change to our program and the way we did co-teaching and those pieces in our grade levels. So some very difficult conversations that we've had to engage in as a staff. It's hard to, whenever we're talking about budget and money, we always try to ground ourselves in our values. We try to ground ourselves in the mission and vision of our school. But it doesn't make any of these conversations any easier when you're looking at, like I've shared, 18 to 21 positions that are not going to be at our school anymore. So that's a big significant piece. The other, I guess, piece I want to share too is that the school choice did end, or not end, but the deadline was February 7th to get your request cards in. And so I just wanted to update people there to make sure that if you haven't done that, make sure that you do. I know there were some questions around conference time of, if I have my own transportation, I don't have to do anything because I can just drive my kids to Bancroft. That is not true. And we've tried to communicate that to families that, if you're not within our boundary zone, if you're not within our new attendance area, that you're not assigned to Bancroft, that you're being assigned to a different Minneapolis school. You can still request Bancroft. And even if you're providing your own transportation, it still doesn't mean that you're going to be able to attend Bancroft. And so I just wanted to make sure that families were aware of that. We have communicated with a few families that misunderstood that during conference time. And so hopefully we'll get them to schools that they can get to, or we can get them to request Bancroft.
Diego, if I might just cut in, there was a chat question during your previous topic that is linked to what you're just addressing. And that's would the numbers change if more people open enroll at Bancroft? So I think that what that's getting at is the 385 that we're slated for, is that pretty much an in-stone type of thing because they've made their assignments, or is there still some flex, assuming that school choice process is still undergoing?
So that is what I'm projected at, and I would pretty much say that's in stone. I mean, lightly in stone. I don't like to say anything's absolute, but that's the money that I've been given. What happens in the fall is if our actual student numbers are above a certain point of projections, they do staffing adjustments. And so that is one possibility. We've had that in the past. I think second year at Bancroft, we opened the school year with over 600 kids, which was about 60 to 70 kids above our projection. And we were given 2 staffing adjustments, and we received 2 associate educators. And so almost every year there's been certain years where we've been above, and we've been I was going to say gifted. That's not even the word, but they've made staffing adjustments so that we had more staffing in place. I've not been in a scenario where we've gotten more teachers. It's always been support staff. So that is something that I know that they've held back money at the district level because this year is more unusual than any other year to try and make projections to see where kids are going to land. And I do think they've made their best attempt at projecting, but I think it's definitely a possibility that there'll be some adjustment in the fall.
Thank you.
And then just to address Davin or Davin, I want to make sure I get people's name right. just to address that question, is that they have a set number of how many. I think we've talked about this at another meeting, but they did give me a set number, actually not a set number, a range of number of how many out of area enrollments they would allow at Bancroft. And I do know that there was a significant number of out of area enrollments that requested Bancroft, and not all of those are going to get in. And I would say, I think what I said at Coffee Tea and IB, it's somewhere between 25 and 30% of the actual requests that will make their way into Bancroft next year. And the one, I guess, nice thing about that is if you do get your request to come to Bancroft, if you're an out of area family, you do not have to do that. And I did get confirmation on this. You do not have to do that every subsequent year. And so once you have been admitted to the school, then you will stay at the school as, you know, through the grade bands.
Right, and just as a quick follow-up, that's why sibling preference is still a thing, because once you're in this year, and if you've got another child coming up, then sibling preference kicks in because you've got an existing child in this particular school. That was a question from a different thread, but yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, correct. So there's a lot going on. I think, you know, right, like I said, budget has really taken the bulk of my time. The bulk of our staff and leadership team meeting times, just because it is a significant change for our building, for our staff. And we're just trying to support each other and work through that, because it's not easy for anyone.
Thank you, Diego. Davin, you've got that other chat. I'm just going to address that as well, because this is something I know I've been talking with others, and we've had this conversation at the PTO level as well. The question was, why is that if the school is going to be under enrolled relative to now? And as I'm understanding it, and I think we can certainly just rehash this really quickly, the notion of open enrolling into another school is dependent upon the district's goals for the area, meaning that if one family were to open enroll this school, how does that impact the school that they were assigned to or that they're leaving, in terms of the target demographics, in terms of the balance of free and reduced lunch, or the balance of the diversity count from one school to another. And so it's really not just a matter of there's room at a school, therefore, yes, let's let them move over. It's more at this year, it's more a matter of if my family, I always use my family as an example because I'm not allowed to use anyone else's family. But if my family, who's been assigned to another school, wanted to open enroll, and we do, and we did, and they put that through, my son, who we're biracial, so how does our leaving the other school impact the demographics, the minority count over there versus here? And of course, Bancroft has always had such a very good diverse student population. Where we are transitioning to does not. So we're not as hopeful because of the way that's sort of been explained to us. And if that helps, and I don't know if anyone else has any other comment to that, but that's been the general discussion point to how the district approves open enrollments this particular year.
Yeah, thank you, V. Paul, for sharing that. And I think part of it too is just to piggyback off of that is, and I shared this, I think, with staff, and I think at Coffee Tea and IB, is that they don't want, in a sense, our success or our enrollment population to be based off another school's demise or losing population, or, you know, those pieces. And the other piece too is that we want to make sure that our school is growing enrollment from the people that live, or from the students that live in our boundary zone. And so that's the other piece too, is that if we have families move in, or if we have, you know, kids that are in the new Bancroft zone, we want to make sure that there are spaces for them at their community school. And so that's why they are leaving some spaces open and not putting us at capacity. I think we're at about 80% capacity with these numbers, maybe even a little bit less. But that's one of the rationales too, is to make sure that we have space for students that are either moving into the community or in the community. And I know one of the things I do want to work with PTO and Site Council through with is we do have a list of incoming kinders and 4-year-olds that live in the neighborhood, that live within, you know, Cedar, Chicago, Lake, and 42nd Street. And so sending our postcards out to those families, trying to make sure that we are growing our enrollment from the folks and the kids that live in our attendance zone. And, if we had, I think there's 128 kinders and 4-year-olds. So if all those kids came, that fills up my kindergarten to more than 4 kindergarten sections. And then if we can retain those kids and those families, then our school starts to grow up as they matriculate through the years. And so right now, yep, it stinks. We're cutting a section basically from every grade. And so my hope is that, in the next 2-3 years, hopefully even next year, we put out this great programming, the great IB programming, and then we capture those kinders and preschoolers that are in that rectangle. And Kimberly, we have still a remainder of the postcards. And so I was going to have Linda just do a mail merge and stamp them up and send them out. And I know that the PTO webpage, the PTO, what do you call that? Email and phone number. And I don't know if anybody's still checking that voicemail, but that's the postcard that I was planning to send to all the incoming families.
So far, the voicemails have been, our warranty is out of date and we need to look at extending. So I've been extending it 6-7 times now. I really don't know what's going wrong. Okay.
That's a question. So Rosa, yes, if you live within that rectangle, you don't have to do anything. You are automatically given a spot at Bancroft at your community school.
Great. Thank you. Or was there anything more, Diego? Mr. DePaz?
No, that's a lot. And I know Amy already shared about the Wing Young Huey residency. I think that's an exciting piece. We do have the Bakken that's happening this week. So there is just a lot of fun things that are going on too for our students. And our second week now with our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, everyone is just, settled right in. I recognize too that there was a lot of transition for our distance learners. Many of them had to switch teachers, welcome new classmates, learn new rituals and routines. And so there was just a lot of transition happening for all of us in the last month. And, I think one of our teachers said it best at one of our staff meetings that, she was talking specifically about kindergartners, but I think just all students are super resilient. They've been flexible. They've handled everything with grace. And I just want to, I know the teachers are going to speak to their experiences too, but I just want to thank them also for making lemonade from lemons and working through whatever situation they've been given. And I think we've done a marvelous job as a whole staff at Bancroft working through all these pieces. So that's my last 2 cents.
Great. I think that's 2 bits at this point. I don't think that's just 2 cents. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. DePaz. I would like to go right into our and let our invited teachers address the group, speak to the group. I know we framed it up as how is transition going? What's the experience been? I think I'd like to just give the context that all of us that are experiencing this throughout the city, we either have a very clinical understanding of it, meaning we're reading the newspapers and that sort of thing, or we have a very first person understanding, meaning my kid is in this class and so I know how my kid is doing. And I think if the teachers, it'd be great by having your insight, we could sort of get a nice middle. And then the idea is to use that information from a PTO standpoint. How can we be helpful without getting in the way? How can we not be the ones that you're stumbling over? And what can we do to help out? So the floor is open. Who would like to go first? Miss Tiffany. Oh, and I want to point out my son's in Miss Tiffany's class, which is why I'm picking on her.
I am happy to go first. Winnie is not happy that I'm going first. She's very mad now. But I'll give her these Post-its again and she'll be okay. Here's your Post-its back. Yeah. Well, I'll say first that I'm a distance learning teacher right now. So I talk to my colleagues who are teaching in person to get kind of I see what's going on, but it's also not my firsthand experience. So the things that they ask me to share or that they're asking for support in are coming from them mostly. I would say from the distance learning perspective, there you go. Woohoo! One of the changes is that we've lost our specialists, and so the live specialist time. So and we've lost some of our AE time, and we've lost kind of just like the other support people. And so it feels a little bit like an island and a little bit more pressure to try to make sure everything's going smoothly. And that like enough is being offered to feel like distance learning kids haven't been forgotten. I mean, that's like my personal perspective on it, that a lot of, and rightfully so, a lot of attention's on keeping in-person going smoothly. And so just trying to like hold up our end of the distance learning thing. As far as the in-person classrooms, and this is again, like specifically first grade classrooms that I don't even really see the kindergarten classrooms, because when I go in, I go straight to my room and then I leave again. So they do want to like somehow have more of like a, I don't know, the way they like asked was like, if families could magically convince their kids to stay in their seats somehow, like the social distancing and the mask wearing it reminds me of what I like read in the newspaper, like what you said of like, there's no COVID cases when all the rules are being followed. And there's like that caveat of when all the things are being followed. And it's just like it's really, I mean, you all have children, so you understand that like convincing your one child to like wear their mask and keep it on and keep it above their nose and keep it on even when they're going to the bathroom by themselves. When I go out in the hallway to the bathroom, I see plenty of kids who have got their mask around their chin and have to remind them to, like, just because you're in the hallway doesn't mean you can take it off of your face, or just because you're in the bathroom. So the mask wearing and the social distancing is really, and I mean, they say like impossible, like it's not happening. It doesn't happen. And with the classroom, even though there's that general 1 to 24, they're at 22, 23, and it's cramped. So one thing that they asked for from PTO was if like extra masks, if there's something that like kid masks that have the knots or something to make it so they fit tighter on kids' faces. There's lots of like lost masks, sloppy masks, loose masks. And so that's something that they asked and said would be helpful. And that water bottles, that kids want to go get a drink of water and they don't bring a water bottle, if there's a way we could get water bottles for them, because that would eliminate another movement thing, that they want to get up and leave and get a drink, but there is no drinking fountain and they don't have their own water bottle. So I'm just looking at my list to see what else I can mention that they asked me to mention. And like Mr. DePaz had mentioned earlier was that there's a little bit of that like kind of impending doom of like what happens when 3 more students ask to be in person and then 4 more and 5 more, and that their classrooms are already really tight. And we did some arranging to try to make it as not as like flexible as possible, but there is a cap there. And so there's the one side of like, there's too many kids in this room. And then if we add another classroom, will the distance learning classrooms become 50 kids in the interim? So there's that like, we don't really know what's going to happen, or maybe there won't be that issue. And so we just kind of, we're going day by day is the teacher perspective of it, and doing our best. I don't know if that is helpful.
That was, thank you very much. I think unless I think we're all in a very good listening mode. So if there are other teachers that would like to follow, and then we could sort of comment, but see if there are any common themes among what the teachers are sharing with us. Maybe if there's another anyone else would like to go next.
I can talk a little. I'm teaching 3rd grade in person, and I have 21 kids in my classroom, and so the desks are in, it looks very old traditional school with rows, and everybody's in their row. When we transition from place to place, which isn't very often, it's recess and specialists are the only times we ever really leave our classroom. We eat lunch in the classroom. We step out of our desk, we go down the row, and the 3rd graders that I have, most of them are pretty good about wearing their masks. But then there are just those few, and I feel so bad because I'm always nagging them. And I know they don't want me nagging them, but I need to because it's a safety issue. And so, but most of them are pretty good about it. And I've, with a few of them, I've tried to like, can I help you with your mask? Can I make it be a bit more comfortable? But there are also third graders are at that age where they're like, no, I don't need your help. I'm good. I'm like, well, you kind of aren't good, but all right, let's just keep on keeping on. I think the hardest thing for them is social distance in the hallway. They're just so used to being in line, one behind the other, and then to like, they could probably manage if we just stood still, but to actually then move and stop and go and stuff, like it's just, that is very hard for them. I've had a few of them were like, what? Why do we have to use our Chromebook? We're in-person school. Like, well, we're gonna still be doing assignments on Chromebooks. We're gonna still be using Lexia and Dreambox. Let's see. There was like, just for me personally, I'll tell you, like, today was the first day that I was like, oh, I remember how to do school. Like that transition was hard for us as adults. It was hard for kids. And I think it's sort of, some of that stuff is kind of coming back and getting to be a little bit more automatic for us. When we put together our classroom essential agreements, the first two were wear your mask over your mouth and nose and socially distance. And I certainly have never had that before in my years of teaching. So it feels like it's getting better each day. It's difficult, it's challenging, but I think it's going as well as it can be. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Christine, Ms. Kennard. Who would like to go next?
I think most of what I can offer in terms of my observations are going to be very similar to what Tiffany shared as I work closely with the first grade team. It is really challenging to have the young children keep distance between each other. I've noticed in one of the first grade classes, they're settling into the routine of using their iPads for a certain part of the day. There was one other piece. Oh, one of the reasons it's difficult to keep distance is that we're having trouble hearing each other. So I'm not keeping distance 6 feet away because I cannot hear the children and they cannot hear me. So that caveat is really not feasible in an environment where you're trying to hear each other. So that's been a real challenge, and I'm coming home hoarse every day from yelling through my mask. Kids have been very engaged in terms of being at school and interacting with people live, which is really fun. And I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to communicate with our whole bodies instead of just our faces on the screen. So that's been really helpful. I appreciate so much the PTO's interest in how it's going. And I'm curious if there were particular questions or wonderings that you had about sustaining DL as an engaging platform, or how things are going in person.
Yes, thank you for that. So, I mean, yeah, if we're at a point of just some commentary back or questions, I did want to follow up real quick. I know PTO provided about 600 masks for the students. Did we burn through those already? Is there a way of making sure that, or seeing how they're distributed in such a way that it's like, you need a mask or you're not wearing a mask? Here, have a mask. I'm not really sure how that occurs since I'm not on site. And should we make another investment in masks? I guess is the other question, because that certainly was a very easy process. And we went to a local business, the stitching place here on Bloomington Ave. They made the set for us.
No, thank you. Yeah, so we have plenty of masks. And so I think it just, I'm always at the door greeting students when they come in, and then Mr. Ell is as well. And so if students come in without a mask, which many do, we hand them a mask at the door. If teachers are noticing they're having problems with some kids with masks, then call the office. We have plenty of them to share and distribute. Many of them do have the adjustable ear things. And so that's a problem that we can take care of just with some communication with the office.
Sure. Is it the kind of thing at the university? We during first wave, we just distributed a ton of masks into our classrooms, and this is in the area where I work. And then the notion was you don't have one; it was immediately available, and they didn't have to go to a central place. Is it feasible at all to just dole out 15 extra masks in the classrooms, and the teachers can just sort of whip one out, like on the spot, or is that too decentralized process?
No, they can. I think teachers also have the disposable masks that were passed out to classrooms, or they should have a box of those. And so part of it too is to make sure that we're not, I don't want to use the word, but hoarding things and stockpiling things when we could be using them for the whole school. And so that's why they have been centrally located in the health office.
Well, I think it's easy for me to say that from a PTO standpoint, if there comes a time that we need to provide more of that, if masking is truly the issue and things are just getting sullied and trampled upon through the course of the day, I don't think it's an issue for us to make that available to the school. So that could be a very immediate process from PTO. And I see some nodding heads, so I think that's great. Not sure what the social distancing was certainly another thing. One of the things I did want to mention, and I don't want to hog time either. So please, anyone else wants to say something, just cut right in. I did want to say regarding, I'm again in distance learning with Miss Tiffany, and we understand that we don't have access to specialists, and that I think that's certainly a discussion point that we would like to just sort of get an understanding of, because I don't really think we have any clarity about why, just from a parent standpoint. Of course, the parents are all talking as to why. It'd be nice to just sort of get a sense of that. But one of the things that Miss Tiffany has done, which I think is great, and I don't know if this gets modeled out, is there's this builders club, this arts club. I mean, she sort of added experiences to the distance learning class that's allowing my son to be social with the other students in distance learning in a way that's great. And the stuff that he was sort of getting from specialists, now, even though it wasn't necessarily academic in a way, it was very social and very positive, and the thing he looks forward to on the Tuesday and Thursday, or I forget what the days are. I know we've only done it twice. So the point is, I feel like for the parents, for those of us in distance learning who are feeling a little left out, what institutionally can sort of be provided if we can't get specialists. So that's certainly a discussion point. I see water bottles was there. So the water bottle idea, does anyone want to brainstorm that? I think that came up actually in an earlier meeting, the idea that what are they going to do without having access to the water fountains? And so clearly it's made its way into reality that's becoming a thing.
Yeah. So can I just address that? Because students do have access to water. They can use the bottle filling stations that are still available to all students. No, they can't use the drinking fountains, but they can use the water bottle filling stations. There's also, I believe all the classrooms should have like Dixie cups or cups that students can fill with the sinks in their classrooms. And so that's another way that kids can get water. I know they do that at lunch as well. And so I guess that's another piece that needs to be communicated, that, if that is an option for teachers to have the Dixie cups in their classrooms. Each student can get their own, and they can fill water that way. Obviously, water bottles are the best way to do it. And the water bottle filling stations are available, as are the sinks in teacher classrooms.
Well, here is a question. Thank you, Diego, for the response to that. I know, again, further down on the agenda item, and I really don't want to rock the boat too hard, although I am wearing the mohawk this time, so I think I will. We are slated at this point to provide free T-shirts. that was sort of a thing to build community, particularly for our outgoing group of students. Should we pivot that as a term, as Webster's favorite word of 2020, toward a water bottle investment for students instead, a Bancroft branded water bottle, and if we turn that around quick enough, that can sort of be I've got this permanent water bottle that I'm being told to use at the water bottle filling stations, and then we don't have to burn through too many disposable cups. So I think that's a discussion point, and I don't know if I'm pretty sure that's not original to me, so maybe this is something that someone else has talked about in a non-pandemic year, but water bottles for students rather than t-shirts as an investment from PTO.
I'll just share one thing. I think it's a great idea. My only concern is that they're all the same. Names might rub off of them if they're in permanent marker even. And so just, because it is a pandemic year, that is my concern that, hey, you just drank my water bottle. Hey, that's my water bottle. And my water bottle rolls off and goes into someone else's locker, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about the matching water bottles throughout the entire school with names or names maybe not on them. That's my only caveat with that.
Okay. That's absolutely a fair statement, because my son has gone through 3 water bottles since starting school. I mean, well, not this year, I guess since kindergarten. Cups for students eating at their desk carry some risks associated, is from Amy C. I don't have cups in my classroom, but most of my kids do have water bottles. Okay. So I don't know. I think a pearl of wisdom type notion. One of the things I love noticing about kids is that they are better at Zoom than some of the people that I have to Zoom with at work. I mean, the process of being on distance learning, I think they've built some behaviors that they've just gotten used to. Now, and where am I going with that? Maybe it is a communications thing to sort of just build a behavior that's just standard, so that there isn't too much deviation, and maybe that would help build the behavior of the distancing and the mask wearing. Like, I mean, if we knew for sure every teacher did have a mask to whip right out, and that was just a standard type of thing, then there's no room for kind of like gray, right? If we knew that every classroom maybe did have cups, or that there was the expectation that you're bringing a water bottle, not even provided by the PTO, just your own water bottle, then there's no deviation. So I just sort of want to throw that out there, because I think what we're looking at, what we're trying to do, is kind of like what was that, Mad Men, right? In the TV show, we're trying to affect behavior. We're not selling a product. We're just trying to affect behavior. That's what Mad Men really was all about.
Hey,
Plus,
Paul, I'm
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but Alicia's trying to get in.
Oh, hold on. Where is that? I don't see the notice.
She
Oh,
sent me a
there it
text
is.
message.
Okay, I know why. Because I had scrolled down. There we go. Thank you. So anyway, thank you for that, Kimberly. And what do you folks here today think? It's because that seems to be the theme from what we've heard from the teachers. It's behaviors more than resources, really. And as I get from Diego, the resources are there. We just got to get people to use them. And by people, I mean the half people that we send there. This is great. So,
Well, I think, honestly, they're children, and
yeah.
many of the things that I've heard tonight have absolutely solidified my decision to keep Henry at home.
Yeah.
And this is so hard for everybody, and I can't imagine every day in school. All of you teachers, you're so amazing. I continue to be absolutely thankful and amazed by all of you, helping all of us navigate this for our families. And I think getting kids to wear masks. I'm really fortunate. It's funny, we're in distance learning, but my kid will wear a mask all day long. He doesn't care. We're going to a store, he's already got it in his face before we leave the house.
Yeah.
And that's just really lucky that he's somebody who's willing to do that. But lots of kids aren't, and it is the reminders, it's the constant. And I get it, Diego, like all the water bottles. I was going to bring it up, like, can we just buy them water bottles? And then I thought, oh my gosh, then there will be 300 water bottles that all look the same, made out of plastic that have to get thrown away. So in this case, I wouldn't normally be one to be a proponent of disposable cups, but in this case, I think that's probably for those kids that aren't good about bringing their own water bottle to school, having it there and maintaining control over it, that a disposable cup is going to be the better option.
So, thanks, Kimberly. Yeah, I think what would it? So we are sort of in a place where it probably is more beneficial to sort of overly stock our teachers than to sort of try to limit what's at the hand. I mean, to literally make sure every teacher's got the cups that they need and every teacher's got masks in their left hip pocket type thing. So that there's just no obstacle to getting that to where it needs to go. Is that a fair statement? And I think if it's certainly a matter of budget, I would, I certainly would think PTO can certainly pick that up. The other thing regarding again, just going back to my Mad Men analogy regarding affecting behavior, would it be worth our while if PTO, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, we put together a quick little video thing, literally, frankly, to try to make that Bill of Rights ditty that we all grew up with in the 70s. And all of a sudden we cared as 6-year-olds how a bill is made, right? I mean, the kind of thing that plays at morning meeting during pre-roll, like Miss Tiffany, you open your room at a particular time and kids start to roll in. Maybe there's pre-roll. I use pre-roll a lot in my video conferences as sound check for folks. I don't know how in person is doing. I know you've got the big flat screens. I don't know how they get used but if that's just rolling and kids are just inundated with, masks are cool, masks are hip, wear your mask, don't be like Chip. And then we got some kid with COVID. I don't know, that was just off the top of my head also, right? But, and so that's kind of a thing. And I think PTO could certainly, we have capacity. I mean, for the parents of us, we have capacity because we're sitting here and talking. So I think we've got capacity to sort of try to do something and then just get that out there. And again, the notion is to overly resource our teachers so that the teachers just have the stuff at the ready. Any comment or reaction to that apart from my wrap?
I think that your rapping would be greatly appreciated. I think that they would definitely show it while they're eating breakfast, but you have to find rhymes for standing 3 feet apart and staying in your desk also.
Stand 3 feet apart. You don't want to smell a fart. There you go.
I think that would work, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a 7-year-old son and we rap about farts a lot. So that one was easy to me. Anyway, okay. I mean, can I get a sense of direction or pushback? I would certainly love pushback because that's how great ideas are made. I'm gonna look at you, Diego, because I love non-verbal communication. Diego, your brow furrowed a couple of times as I was talking, so I know there's some pushback there.
No, I guess I'm just trying to rack my brain because we have these things at school. We have the 300 plus masks that PTO donated. We have the 1,000 masks that we got from the district to have at our school. Like I said, we have the Dixie cups. We've sent out Google Docs and messages to teachers on things that have mask wearing songs and mask wearing videos. And so I think if it's just reiterating some of the resources that we do have, then I'm happy to do that. I do feel if anybody goes into the health office and goes in the back room, there's 3 cabinets just stocked full of all of the resources that we have. So I don't think, for me, it's a matter of PTO needing to spend money to buy any of these materials because we have them. And we're also able to restock them if we run out or run low from the district level. And so again, it's one of those issues where we are able to do it at the school level. We don't need PTO to spend money on cups or spend money on masks because we have that resource, especially just in these times as well. So I think, maybe it's a matter of myself and Brianna just reiterating to staff what we do have and where you can find it. we, like I said, we have baskets of masks at the front entrance. We also have them on our breakfast carts at the door 3 where the 3rd and 5th graders come in. For any students who don't have them, Mr. Ell has a beautiful fanny pack with donuts on it that he carries masks in. We have all those resources for staff. And so it's not necessarily pushback. It's just like we have the stuff. And so maybe it's just communicating better of where it's at, or also communicating and asking questions from the staff of where I can find these things.
No, thank you. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's all good. That's all great to know. It's frank, because then I don't have to be rapping about farts, since you've already got a Google Doc with those links.
I don't think fart raps would hurt though.
Okay. I wonder, so I'm not going to venture too far out. I think there's certainly some email chain stuff to discussable there. And I know I also want to be cognizant of time. It's at 6:42 and I don't want to belabor the point too hard. And thank you very much for the teachers that stayed this long. Let me just say, we totally appreciate that. But I wonder then, and not to get into any into an administrative wheelhouse, but the resources are there, perhaps just decentralizing a little bit, or teachers just I don't know. I'll leave that in your wheelhouse, Diego and Linda and the folks there, Sue, to sort of figure out if that's certainly the case. The other thing I wanted to mention, speaking hoarsely, I get it about you've got a mask, you got to talk louder. The kids have a mask. Our classroom's not outfitted with mics, and where I'm going with it is we actually use a mic system. It's a wireless headset with a speaker pack. My wife, because she teaches dance and it's hybrid, I got her this thing where she's able to speak to a classroom normally, but also still be speaking to the Zoom folks through the speaker set. And it's just extra reinforcement. So because the room she's in doesn't have a mic system. Now, I don't know what that means to Bancroft, but it works. It's been working in our experience, so that she's not having to, 5, 6, 7, 8, until she's hoarse because she's wearing this thing. So is there a solution that we could troubleshoot there, or provide some kind of guidance there? I remember Miss Kira having a microphone that sometimes was around her neck. I think that was classroom based, but
yeah, I can reiterate too. Every single classroom does have a amplification system. That doesn't mean every staff member uses it while they're in the classrooms together or while they're sharing a space. But that was one of the things that I had checked before we started back in person, because I knew that we would have a difficulty having muffled voices under a face covering, and so we do have an amplification system and mics in every single classroom that's being used for in-person.
And is it if they're not being used, are they not being used because it's more trouble than helpful? And is that something that we could contribute to or look at, or is it again just a communication behavioral thing?
I'll let the teachers answer that question, because I'm not the one using them in classrooms. And I think Amy just put in the chat that she moves from a couple classrooms, but I can let them answer that question.
I suppose, Miss Amy, if you're moving from class to class, you don't want to necessarily be using a mic that the other teacher was using, because that certainly is a thing. So,
well, and a lot of what I do, I'm trying to have a private conversation with a student rather than talk to the whole class.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to amplify my voice for that.
I see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I can say that I use my mic every day, and I try to make sure I put it on the charger. And I put it quite up close to my face, like right up close to my throat. And because I have my shield on, and it does a very fine job of amplifying my voice so that I don't have to, but it does a great job. I love it. It doesn't make it any easier for me to hear the kids.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because they're muffled behind their masks. So most of them are just really patient when I say, I'm sorry, that's the 4th time I'm asking you to repeat, but I got this, and this, and then I couldn't hear you. So yeah, but the mics do work well.
Great, thank you. Any other comment or discussion points from PTO?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm wondering, Diego and staff, if you all are anticipating like a new wave of students as big kids go back to school. I'm a high school teacher, and I know that a lot of my kids are taking care of younger siblings. And so if big kids choose to come back, by default, little kids are going to come back as well. And if so, if you plan on that, and also like if you've got concerns slash what's your plan when more kids come back?
Yeah, I kind of touched on that a tiny bit earlier when I was giving some of the updates that, that is something that I'm cognizant of, and that we are, planning out a process on what that would look like. I think most of our classrooms right now, I think are at a pretty optimal, I would say the in-person classrooms are a pretty optimal number. And so I think they can, aside from first grade, which I think has the biggest classes so far, I think most of the classrooms could, accommodate a couple more students, 2 to 3 students per classroom, and it would still leave us below the teacher to student ratio. I do think that's something, I mentioned I have a principal meeting on Wednesday, and that's a question that I'm bringing forward. If there is a process or protocol that any other building has already instituted, or just some ideas they have around, creating more in-person classrooms. Because like I said, I do anticipate with the weather warming, I knocked on wood and said perhaps, we haven't had any COVID cases in our building. If that continues, then I feel like more folks will be sending kids in person. I also have to work around staffing issues. I mean, we have some staff that are working remotely on accommodations. And so it's a matter of what capacity can we actually have in our building, and what staffing will we be able to have in our building for in-person learning.
Great, thank you. Rosa, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I'm more wondering, like, is it going to come to a point where staff who want to work from home and have been at this point able to work from home, but like haven't been like granted accommodations, quote unquote, are they going to be required to come back in at a certain point as numbers rise? Or do you still have staff that are in distance right now because they can, but willing to come back, I guess would be another way to ask that.
That's a good question. There's a little of both. And so I would say that at any point, if we can no longer accommodate or function without people in the building, then yes, there comes a point when we can say, no, I cannot make that accommodation to work remotely anymore, and people can be recalled. I think at this moment, I do think we have enough staff that are not on actual accommodations that could be recalled to be in person to make that work. But there becomes a point of hardship on the institution or the building or the whatever it is, where folks would need to report back if it comes to that.
Okay, thank you for those points, the question, Rosa, and Diego, the answers. We are at 10 to time, and I want to make sure that we sort of just at least touch upon a couple of things. It sounds like, first of all, that we've got some not extracurricular, but some remote and distance type field trip activities going on. The Bakken Museum was one. I just to sort of bring forward, I'm in the dance community. I just had a show, and we're trying to make a remote version of that available to our music and arts teacher and performing arts teachers. So we're working our way through that. Where I'm going with it is, we sort of held off as a PTO. We held off asking the teachers what field trips opportunities are they looking at, or that they would like to program that the PTO can fund out of that budget. So I think now that we're at this point where transition is well underway and people are on their own already thinking about field trips, I think we will put out a communication plan to the teachers to say, if you've got stuff that you would like, send us the bill. Or something to that effect. I mean, let's use the process that we have, the request process, to try to get some of these field trip experiences so that the in-person and the distance learning are getting some value added experiences. Go ahead, Sue, you've got a question. Thank you for raising your hand.
Thank you, Paul, or V-Paul. We really appreciate the support and that funding towards field trips. You know, we really, every year, we manage to spend every penny of it. So we're anxious to start using some more opportunities in the classrooms and in distance learning. And places have been really working hard to provide them, like to figure out, okay, how do I do the Bakken now online? Or how do we do the Science Museum or whatever? So thank you for that. And what we've traditionally done is that we work through collaboration at the grade level teams and figure out what learning experiences work well with the concepts or the content we're working on at the time. And then I'm usually the point person, and I will come to you asking for money.
Okay, great. So
Okay.
yeah, I think then we weren't sure if we needed to write a letter out and have it come through those staff meetings that Diego talks about. But if you're the point person, I think then
Yep.
the point is, yeah, we would like to fund stuff.
And I love to ask for funding. So
Okay, great.
it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. Yes, it is. How about that? It's a
Thank you.
win-win. And I think so. Then and again, we are at 53, so I'm going to try and be very efficient here. This ties into the other notion we had that was on agenda, the no specialists to distance learning folks. Which just in discussions is we are understanding, or and again, not we PTO, but I think just parents are understanding as staffing of that kind of thing. Is it possible at all to sort of just get a nice summary about why distance learning isn't getting, and then two, can we leverage the notion of field trips to try to replace specialists to distance learners? What I'm saying is Miss Tiffany has already been on her own doing some great stuff. The Builders Club and the Arts Club that she does with my kid totally doesn't make up for 100% of it, but my gosh, it's there. I would love for my kid to still be getting Spanish, but I understand that there's some issues there. Is there a way to bring in a Spanish field trip type experience so that some of that is represented? So that's how this is that's how they're tying together. What can the PTO do through the field trip bit of it that can sort of at least help replace what's being lost with the specialists, and or can we get an update about whether or not specialists are coming back for distance learning?
Well,
That was
can
a
I
big-
just
big
add
question.
to that really quickly before
Absolutely.
Diego starts talking?
Yeah, absolutely, Kimberly.
Is also, I mean, because I do understand the reasoning behind it, but I am finding that not all specialists are posting every week or on the day that they're supposed to. So we get left with a large block of time that we have to fill in other ways on our own. And I get it why they can't be there to teach a class live, but there's not a recorded lesson either. Like today, there was no.
So thank you for clarifying that, Kimberly. And I know it's semantics, but it's not that distance learning is not getting any specialists. They're not getting live specialists. And so the expectation, and I did share this on Friday at Coffee, Tea, and IB, the expectation is that the specialists do post new material each day for the distance learners. The expectation is that because they're not live, that it's more than just a seesaw activity. That's an actual like recorded lesson or recording of them teaching something to the students, like a flip grid or a screencast-o-matic type lesson where the specialists are actually teaching something to the students. And so that is the expectation, and that is definitely something that I can follow up to make sure is happening. I did share at Coffee, Tea, and IB, and it is difficult because I think we have 16 or 17 classes in person, and I think 11 classes total in distance learning. And so to make sure that we are contractually covering all of the teachers' prep times in person, we need to make sure that, that schedule is in a sense favoring the in-person kids and the in-person teachers to make sure they have that time. The way we set up our distance learning schedule is that teacher prep time was the same for everybody from 12:30 or 11:30 to 12:30. And so that was the prep, and the specialist covered the lunch time, which is again, 30 minutes of duty-free time for teachers. And so schedule wise, it was just impossible to try and get the prep times and the specialist times covered for in-person while still offering live specialists. The specialists do have time throughout the day to plan their lessons. And so they have a little bit of more additional prep time to make sure that those lessons are happening. And so from you saying they're not happening, then that's a problem for me, to make sure that they are recording their sessions and posting them, new material daily for students. Spanish is another piece too. Profe, who normally does the K1 classes, is on leave through spring break. We cannot secure a long call sub for that position. I believe that Elisa is going to be picking up, Maestra Elisa is going to be picking up some more of the K1 classes. I know that she recently started teaching Spanish in person again for both DL and in-person kids. So that's going to happen. And I think she might be doing some more, I just worked with her for her scheduling, and is going to pick up some of the first grade and kindergarten pieces too, to teach, especially during the DL time. So at least they're getting some of that. But I know a specialist has come up, and I, I'm sorry, we just couldn't figure out how to get all of it live for both sessions. I also need to make sure too that the teacher workload, that they have, the specialists have their prep, but I do understand that if they're not posting new materials and if it's just a seesaw activity, then that's not the expectation that was laid out. And so that's something that we need to change and improve on.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's good to hear about Maestra too. My son was doing the Cuentos during distance learning, so he was getting 2 touches on Spanish. So if that gets to come back, that would be great. He was loving it. And plus the fact that there were first speaker Spanish kids in there that he just got a chance to interact with. So I'm looking forward to that. But having said that, so from a PTO standpoint, and I know we are getting close to time, 2 minutes. Let's have a really lively. Is it in our wheelhouse, PTO, to figure a way of leveraging the field trip notion to sort of try to get some of that live specialist content to the distance learners? Or is that just too much to ask for and too hard? I mean, without putting any more strain on teachers, but providing, because I mean, again, from the special, all those specialist things, those are all such social things. I mean, Jim, my kid would just be running his heart out because there were other kids running his heart out in the middle of their living rooms, right? So, I mean, the point is that in our wheelhouse, PTO? I'd like to put that up for just a quick discussion of what's possible.
I defer to Bancroft staff and admin on what that means, and if there's something that they want to do, then and it's possible to do, like, I'm all for it. I think at this point, I know that everybody's doing the best they can, and it's really hard. And I mean, if the special, if they can meet whatever the baseline that Diego has set out, that would be great. And if there's something that can be over that might be possible or doable, I'm all about funding more of that. But I think I'm just going to defer to Bancroft staff and admin personally.
I think the problem with deferring, and this is certainly not in any negative way, but the problem with deferment is that staff and admin is already taxed taxed as teachers are, and it's certainly within their wheelhouse, within Diego and Sue's wheelhouse, to make sure that the minimums are hit. But I think as parents, and I'm going to now sort of put on my soapbox hat here, as parents, we're asking for more than the minimum, and if we have it within our capacity as PTO to provide more than the minimum, I think it's certainly there. So I would like to encourage a little more leadership for this particular thing, if we could, without causing stumbling blocks for what's already out there. I just want to make sure that we don't cause stumbling blocks.
My only point is that I want the green light. And then I think that, because I think that it is additional work to do. And so, like, can we make it possible? I don't want to just waste money with something that nobody uses. And so I think that that's just got to be a piece, is that somebody's got to put it out there on the seesaw or organize and emails and all that. And if that's something that people say green light for, I'm all for it. That's all. I'm one parent, though. There's other parents, so I guess I will, like, definitely don't make my
No. This is good discussion. We're at 7:01. I just want to point that out. So certainly if people start to drop, you're welcome to, and I didn't really mean to have such a heavy discussion at the end of the talk. So we can certainly take this to email as well. We've got an email chain. You are all on it. So I don't want to force people to stay in this meeting any longer than needed, but I think it's probably a fair statement to say that this is not an idea that can be put forward. And we need a little more from staff, from Diego and leadership. What would you be willing to have us do that doesn't get in the way of you with what expectations you already have for faculty? Is that a fair statement, PTO folks? I see some head nods. I also want to say we're prioritizing, let me get this change those emails. So I want to say we are prioritizing small groups for advanced learners, challenge math. Yeah, challenge math. That's on a small group work based on the needs of students. That was from Lisa. And David, can you add my email rather than, oh, I see. Angry. Okay. Yep. Yeah. I'll do that. Great. Thank you.
So,
Diego, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I just want to reiterate what Lisa said, and I said this, on Friday's Coffee Tea and IB too, that we are still trying to do all of those extracurricular groups. We are still doing the online recess and SEL groups with Ms. Tammy and Mr. Ell and Mr. Menke and James. I guess my question would be, aside from the minimum, which it doesn't seem like that's happening in all cases. I mean, what would parents or you, Paul, or the PTO like to see from us? Because
live.
Once I know what my expectations are, and then maybe I can try and meet those. And so I think right now it's a very vague. I most likely will not be able to do live specialists every day.
Yeah.
I mean, once we look at the schedule, like I said, we're a week into our 3rd through 5th graders being with us, and so maybe once the dust has settled, we can relook at schedules and see if there is any opportunity for them to do that. But I also just want to know, like, what is in a sense, what is your expectation of the school or specialists, and then what would the field trips or virtual things, like, how would that, if it's not live, how would that take the place of?
Well, right, absolutely. I think live is certainly the goal. The assignments and video without any reinforcement is fairly useless, at least at this age level, the age group. And I'm certainly not pedagogical, so certainly you could just ignore that from the Mohawk guy. But frankly, if my kid doesn't get a second touch from something that from Miss Tiffany, doesn't get retained. And that was certainly true for all of the specialist type topic material. They would have a thing that they would do, and then they would touch on it live, plus the social bit. So I think that certainly is the goal. Now, with field trips, there are remote live that we could turn to. Again, I am providing as much as I can a dance experience that's going to be live to the school. Now, it might not make it to the 1st graders, it might just go to the 5th graders, but the fact of the matter is that stuff exists out there, and I think we certainly we have the capacity to hunt for that, to sort of,
Miss B tries also. She records a lesson.
I just don't think there's any.
So that I think that sort of, if you're looking for a range, right, the minimum is where it's been set. If we can get some live back, that would be, and certainly not every day, because we're not asking for the moon, just maybe a couple of satellites. But I think certainly this is a topic that is deserving of more discussion than the last 5 minutes of the meeting. So I think it'll certainly make its way into an email chain, and it will make its way into the next PTO meeting. I think we'll certainly, as a PTO, put our focus into communicating out that we are paying for field trips, so that Sue fills out that form of ours as many times as possible in the next 4 weeks. Does that sound like a fair statement, folks? Okay. I don't want to call out new business, so I'm not. I'm going to ignore that one. But are any announcements that anyone wants to make before we sort of call it? Because this is great. Thank you for staying 5 over. And I'm not certainly gunning out if people still need to talk. If there's a motion to extend, I'm all for it too. But I don't want to make expectations of anybody. All right. Seeing and hearing none, I think we will call the meeting for today, but there will be an email follow-up. So thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate the time. Thank you, Diego, for the pushback. That was not pushback, but I appreciate that. I think it's how we hone ideas, right? So thank you. And thank you, teachers, for coming out. You are welcome every meeting, teachers. Please come to every meeting. That's what the T stands for. All right. Thanks very much. Take care. Stay safe.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.